I have a question for you guys. So one of our difficulties were getting face masks and gowns. Or have you guys changed course of how you provide these items, or are you manufacturing within the United States, or are you still looking abroad for items? Because, you know, I don't believe that this is the last pandemic. I think with the way things are going, um, we may face something different and may need supplies. How are you guys treating that process?
So specific to PPE, at least on the disposable side, I personally cannot speak to the details, only because that's just a different team within Medline. We cover a big scope of all sorts of different products and categories. I mean, I just knowing the folks that I know on that team, I know that they're probably working long hours and weekends to find new sources and do whatever it takes to not only meet the needs of customers that have been buying from them consistently over the past few years, but also be able to support needs above and beyond that normal level, and then new customers, and be prepared for a potential second wave. So, I think we're trying to learn from what's happened over the past few months and be better and smarter and more prepared going into the
Because
future.
I know before this, we only put on a mask in a airborne isolation or some sort of isolation. Now we are putting on masks, everyone, every day, sometimes 2 and 3 times a day. So we're going through these products so fast. Um, so I think for every industry, it's a good idea to try to have something done locally.
That's
Yeah.
exactly what I think we strive to do, and Tess
Right.
can add to this because she sees the entire IP portfolio. But it is about building those partnerships both domestically and internationally,
Right.
that you can hedge your bets. Something could happen domestically and we get cut off from that supply chain,
Right.
no problem. We've got our
Right.
international sources as well. And I think something else that we do incredibly well as a team, of course, I'm a little bit biased, but I think our team gets very deep into the weeds on that supply chain. So while we may not directly own the relationship with, let's say, a root supplier like the substrate manufacturers, the white fabric manufacturers, we make those connections so that we understand what their goals are, not just for this year, but for next year. What kind of assets are they investing in and that will be installed in the ground so that we can, if we're not buying directly, so that our manufacturing partners can get in line and sign up for that volume, right? So again, keeping the continuity for everything, the components that go into our finished goods. Uh, Again, I'm the wipes nerd. Joshua's the chemistry nerd. IP's the overall IP nerd. So, we get very passionate about like what goes into each product and how can we be a part of that supply chain conversation, that even though we don't control it, our business partners who do control it can get on the ball and make sure that our stock is protected or increased. Always the hope to increase.
Right.
You know, let's switch over to cleaning and chemicals real quick, because we've seen a lot on media, TV, and we've seen a lot of people with backpacks and spraying chemicals, spraying down. We see it, especially now. It's September. It's the start of school, or something that looks like school for a lot of children and families. So we see a lot of spraying of chemicals, and we've had these conversations on past podcasts about different technology, new technology, and then the good old-fashioned method of disinfectant wipe and good elbow grease and friction on a surface. So What are your thoughts, and what's effective and what's just fluff and show? Deb, I know you're probably, you want this question, Deb. And then I also talked to us about surface validation, because that's something that sends Dion and Jeff in a craze mode as well. Talk to us about surface validation, and how often should we be doing that? And how does, and this is a very loaded question, how does, how do us busy EVS professionals, right, with everything that we have to do, everything our frontline team members have to do, how do we add a good validation program into, and QA program into our daily routine?
So something that I've learned through getting to know all three of you is that your team does exceptionally well at building the process and making it part of the culture. And I think that's where it all starts, right? Because again, I said this earlier, you can have a widget, but the widget is nothing without the people. And so the leadership and what they do to get their people trained up, A, and B, continue to maintain that knowledge and add on new knowledge if new equipment is introduced, is what is going to make any team as successful as possible. So that said, you all are off to a great start. So I think above and beyond that, it's really about looking at products that make it convenient for your supervisors and your managers who, like you said, are very busy. In pre-COVID, we're very busy to begin with. So, you're in your business dress outfits and you've got these clipboards and you've got the cell phone and the other cell phone and maybe a SpectraLink. Where do you hold everything, for surface validation? And, I never would have thought it until I started traveling out in the field, how big a difference the size of a product and its portability makes to the usability and then compliance thereafter. So, for example, our AccuPoint ATP meter, small handheld, it's about the thickness of 2.5, maybe 3 cell phones, otherwise the same kind of dimensions. And it comes with a carrying case, so, you can wear it kind of like a very small messenger bag. And on the back side of that, you also have a compartment where you can put your swabs. So no matter where you are, let's say you are away from home base all day, you can have that with you and have that convenience of, oh, I'm in 4 East, room 102. I'm going to go to that site on my reader, swab, collect it, and when I get back, syncs, and you've continued to keep those records without having to change anything you're doing throughout your day. So the only thing that you have to learn is, how do I use the piece of equipment? Above and beyond that, you're out, I got a swab, no problem.
That sounds
And
easy.
Sorry, go ahead, Liz.
No, I was going to say that sounds easy. I love the carrying case. We've actually trialed this. And Dion, we love this ATP system because it was light, it was small. We love the fact the simplest thing is the pocket on the back where the swabs can fit into, and a lot of them was the best thing. So we're a fan of this, absolutely, 100%.
I think the staff appreciated it too. I remember doing these just before Christmas and spending the time with the staff in each unit, just kind of going through their process. I think they liked having somebody, just kind of like, how did I do? Do I need to do better? And they appreciated that feedback.
Absolutely. Dion,
Yeah,
thoughts
so-
on? Oh, go ahead, Tess. I'm so
Well, I
sorry.
was
Go
just going
ahead.
to jump in on the earlier question related to chemicals and spraying and
Yes.
and kind of how to approach that. Just a couple of thoughts. I think that one of the leading technologies that has kind of been on the radar for a while, but certainly been given the spotlight over the past few months, has been electrostatic technologies. And I do genuinely think that there's value there. I think that from a coverage and efficiency standpoint, in terms of applying disinfectant to a large space in particular, you're definitely getting bang for the buck there. I think that one of a couple key considerations with that are always check the chemistry label. to make sure that it's safe to use in that manner, that whoever is using the sprayer is wearing any necessary PPE while operating that you've got, folks not in the room if that's necessary as well. So just making sure again that you're following the instructions and what's written on the chemistry label. And then two, also not forgetting that a really important part of the cleaning and disinfection process is the cleaning. So with a sprayer, you're getting this really fantastic coverage of disinfectant on the surfaces, because that positive negative charge is, really getting that full coverage and that full spread across the surface it's being sprayed on. But it's not removing soil, right? It's getting the disinfectant on the surface. It's doing the killing stuff that it's designed to do. But again, if you read most disinfectant labels, it requires either pre-cleaning of the surface to remove that gross soil so that the disinfectant can have more killing power on the germs that are on that surface. So it's definitely not a replacement, I think, for more traditional processes. You still have to remember the cleaning. It is a 1-2 step there.
And kind of to bring it all full circle. So once you teach your people that cleaning process and disinfection, it's a great opportunity to use that ATP meter to make sure that they understand, hey, just because you think it visually looks clean doesn't mean that it is actually clean. It's that teaching tool, and it helps sort of sink it in, right? It's the little grade that they get at that moment in time, and then you can have that teaching opportunity if there's some correction that you need to work on with their process or following the steps. And like Sylvia said earlier, I thought I was initially surprised, but knowing myself, I think I would be the same way. You kind of feel good that, hey, I got an A+ on when I cleaned that room. So, oh man, I got a B+. Not bad, but I'm always aiming for that A+. And I think that's something that I love about EBS workers, is that the ones who stick around are so passionate about what they do, and they're so committed because they understand the patients, and they're often from the community that they clean the hospital in. And so they have that much more of a tie to the patients, because it could literally be a neighbor or a family member. And, it reflects in their work product. They are very devoted, and I think it's a great way for them to see, hey, I'm doing a great job, pat myself on the back, or hey, I could do better. I've let myself slip, and here's how I get back to that A+ status.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. ATP, I think, is a great education tool, especially because we often talk about, doing the job right the first time. And doing the job right the first time means not cutting corners. We know that EBS workers are very challenged with time and with workload, especially when our activity level gets really high. We're settling back into our, very close to pre-COVID levels of activity. Oh, wow. And they might be tempted to, they're in a room cleaning. Hey, that overbed table looks pretty good. I'm not going to worry about that. Well, when you actually show them on swab and that soil count, the RLUs are through the roof. You got 3-4 digit numbers. That's scary, because what we're showing them is, by you saving that 30 seconds to not wipe down the top of that overbed table, somebody could have touched that, somebody who's immunocompromised, somebody who's very sick, and we could have hurt them even further because we didn't do our job right. So it is a fantastic tool to show people just how far the work they're doing goes in protecting the lives of patients. So I'm glad you mentioned that.
Absolutely. And it's great to hear from you, your feedback, that it is a helpful tool. I think sometimes companies they invent to invent, or they launch new products because time to innovate, but innovation it's got to be accompanied by the necessity. And so it's good to know that the need is there.
So for our
I was
next
going to say,
podcast, I
oh,
want to touch on that topic again.